Okay, so I wanted to talk about, which are my notes, purging beliefs by confronting fears. And I've got a whole story around it, and it's really cool and really fun. But there are various ways that we can release a belief, and it's really important to release limiting beliefs that don't support you, that don't that aren't a reflection of the reality that you want to create, right? Because your beliefs and your thoughts create your reality. So for example, if you want a house and your limiting belief is around, oh, I can't afford it, I'll never make enough money to have my own house, all these things that you can have lingering on in the back of your mind, at the forefront of your mind, or just like naturally spill into the daily conversations that you have, are a reflection of what you think you are capable of creating and what you are actually creating. So it's really important that we do confront these limiting beliefs, because if you confront it, then you can transmute it into a more supportive belief. And when you transmute it into a more supportive belief, and you're able to do that collectively as a whole, where it's not just like 20% of you that believes, or 30% or 50%, and you, like, if you work through those limiting beliefs, and there are different ways. There is a quantum leap where you don't have to do so much work on those beliefs, but if you're able to transmute those beliefs and you align to a degree, and consistently align to a degree of where you actually do believe it's possible for you to have the thing that you want, then the momentum builds, and eventually you do manifest what you want in your reality. So there are different ways you can shift and change these beliefs from negative to positive, from unsupportive to supportive. And being aware of the beliefs you have, I think a lot of people overlook them and are like, whatever, you know. But they're really, really important, because they are a direct reflection of what you currently have in your life, what you are currently creating, and what you think you are capable of creating. And when you bring awareness to those thoughts and beliefs, and you intentionally work on transmuting them, then you change your reality simply. So for me, I work through my limiting beliefs through journaling, through conversation. If I'm with someone who I know is capable of helping challenging me and the belief that I'm holding on to, maybe they're able to ask me the right questions, or able to help guide my mind to see things differently, where I don't necessarily want to hold on to the belief as much as I wanted to in the past, and I'm able to shift it to something that's more supportive and positive. And another way, which I want to talk about, is confronting the fear, which I've had experience in recently. And I didn't really know, maybe I did, because I purposely did put myself in a situation where I was testing myself. But yeah, I consciously and intentionally did test myself in confronting the belief to help dismantle it, to break it away, to prove that it was wrong. And it was actually pretty scary, because it was very much a fight or flight situation rather than a prepped situation. So here is the story. For a few months, I've been working on my money mindset, and looking at and digging in and transmuting the limiting beliefs around my money mindset and how I see money and my relationship with money. So it's interesting, because we have lots of different beliefs around a subject, and those beliefs, when you unravel them, you get deeper and deeper, and you get to the core of the problem, the core of the fear. So I was working on a lot of limiting beliefs around money, And then when I kept going deeper and deeper and deeper, the core was that I had a fear of poverty. And so what I would do is I would like catch a thought or a belief, a limiting belief, and be like, oh shit, this is what I think about money. And then I would journal around it, and I would navigate it to the point where I would find the root of where or when this belief kind of like started or came up, of when I kind of formed this belief. So if the root was like, one was like, I can't keep money. Like every time I get it, it just goes, you know, or the fear of losing money, or the fear of money being taken away from me. Because when I was younger, I would always get money from family and friends, and my mom would be like, oh, can I borrow some cash? And I'd say, okay, yeah, mom, you know, because I'm trying to be nice, or because I kind of feel I can't say no, and I wouldn't get it back. Even if I asked her for it, I wouldn't get the money back. And so from there, it created a belief of every time I get money, I will the fear of losing it, or it being stolen, or just it not being safe. Yeah, so I would start with that belief. That was actually the core of that one thought. So I went down and was like, okay, that's the memory with my mom. And then I unraveled it and transmuted it and was like, okay, that's in the past, that's not now. Although this is something I fear, how can I make myself, my body feel safe with this, in this situation? And funny enough, I did get tested, because when you start identifying the things that you fear, the universe will bring situations, experiences, circumstances that test that belief. And recently, paying more attention to it, it tests that belief, because it's like, are you going to hold on to this belief, or have you grown enough to let go of this belief? So funny enough, a few days later, I I randomly woke up to a message saying that, oh, there's been a transaction, you know, one of those scamming transactions, right? And I was like, oh my God. And then I kind of spoke to the bank about it. They were like, yeah, there's these gambling. And I was like, I do not gamble, so definitely not me. And they were like, yeah, this transaction came out from this gambling company, whatever. And so they tried to take out £5, which went through, and they tried to take out 40, but we were able to stop them. And surprisingly, I was actually super chilled about it, which reflects the transmutation of that fear. Because if I reacted as in oh my God, this is the worst thing ever, I knew I can't, I don't feel safe with having my money in my bank because it could be taken, it could be stolen, that is okay, that's me still holding on to a belief and a fear that I'm not ready to transmute. But the fact that I was super chilled when it came to it, and I kind of just was like, okay, just send me a new card. And I was like, well, can I get the money back? And they were like, oh, I'm not sure. And I was like, you know, it's fine, I don't care, it's only £5 for life. And yeah, that in itself is a reflection of me transmuting a fear and a limiting belief that I held on to. And also I needed that experience to show me that, okay, if that's my fear, if that was ever to happen and I had money in my bank and it was taken, that it, you know, the bank would help stop that transaction. And also that I can be at a level where I'm like, okay, well, it is what it is. Obviously, if it was more money, maybe I would have reacted differently. But still, I was like, it's okay, let's keep going on with my life. I wasn't holding on to it. I wasn't beating myself up about it. I just kind of continued my life, right? So that was interesting. So yeah, it's really good when you have these limiting beliefs and you bring them up to the surface. The universe brings you experiences around you to help you transmute that belief, to help you be free of that fear and that limiting belief. So I went through all of these limiting beliefs around money, and I got to the core, and the core was the fear of poverty. So at that moment in time, I was in a situation where I felt stuck. And this was a storyline I've always had, always perpetuated. So my circumstance at the time was that I was staying with my friend, and I was staying with her for a few weeks until I kind of figured out income flow in terms of starting a business and managing money and getting more clients. And then once I had done that, I was gonna go into the city. So I'm in New Zealand, and she lives in a town that's like an hour and a half away from Auckland, which is the capital of New Zealand. And I'd been in her city for about 2 or 3 months, and I was getting restless. It's very quiet. It's full of a lot of old people. There isn't much to do. There's like a high street and a square. So I was getting restless, and I was like, I need to interact with life. I need to interact with people. I truly felt like I needed to get into the city to meet people, to create stuff, to have more opportunities, to just kind of like expand my whole being. But the problem was I had no money. I had a little bit of money, bits of money for food and stuff now and then, but I didn't have enough money to afford accommodation in the city. And it was going to be a big jump for me because for the last few years, I've lived in Asia, which is extremely affordable. Now, from coming from Thailand to going to New Zealand, I was purposely going to challenge myself to improve my money mindset and to prove to myself that I can live in Western countries comfortably, that I can provide for myself in Western countries. Because normally when I've been in Western countries, I've had to like live with a family member or a friend, and I didn't want to feel that kind of like imprisonment, as in like this is my only option. I don't have any other options, and I would love to be free, but I can't because of money, right? I wanted to shift around believing that money was a big barrier, that I couldn't do what I wanted to do because money was stopping me. It was going to be based on my perception to how much I wanted money to limit me, to stop me from doing what I wanted and what I truly felt I needed to do. So, and what is also really funny was that I was actually having a hard time with my friend and living with her. And so it was like I was being pushed to leave, but I was so scared, and I was like, oh my God, but I literally have £20 in my bank account. What the fuck? Like, that is enough for a bus, let alone accommodation and food when I get into the city. And I don't know when. I think I knew that I was getting paid from my clients maybe in a few weeks, maybe in like a month or so. And I was like, I'm just gonna wait. Just wait, Dana, but I just like, I couldn't. And I just felt like I needed to not feel like I was stuck. And this was mental stuckness. So what do I need? I kept thinking, what do I need to do? What do I need to shift within my mind, within my mindset, that can create more abundance around me to help me go into the city, to take this leap, this move, And I can't remember what the switch was, but I think I was like, okay, let's just try. And I normally just like decide and travel on the move as I go. And in Asia, that's easy because it's affordable. So you can decide on the spot, like, okay, I want to stay here, and I want to, because everything is affordable. But you can't do that in Auckland, which I found out. Anyway, so I just packed my whole suitcase as in like a a note to myself, like I'm actually fully leaving this situation, I'm not coming back. But plan B was like, okay, if I need to, I know I can come back to my friends. I booked my bus. I think I actually booked the bus, then cancelled it, then booked it again, because it was really a push and pull between what my soul desired, to go into the city, to meet people, to connect, and my ego and fear. Just fear, so much fear. And so I booked my bus and I booked 2 nights in a hostel. And I said, okay, I'm just gonna start from there. I'm gonna see what arises, what opportunities come to me whilst I'm there. I'm gonna see if I can push myself to create more wealth and abundance during those 2 days. So I got on the bus, I booked into my hostel, and the first day was great. I felt just alive. I felt so lit up, excited for life, which was so different compared to how I've been feeling for the last 2 or 3 months, where I just felt like everything was really slow and dim and mundane. And a confirmation for me was, I put in a post in the Hostel World group, and I was like, oh, if anyone wants to go for a drink, I'm gonna go for a drink at this place. And this guy was like, hey, yeah, I'll come join you. And we just had such a great conversation, where he is living a life that's very frustrating to him, and he lives in London, and he wants to, he's an engineer, but he wants to be a PT. And I was like, wow, like, this is crazy. His story is my old story, so I truly understand him and where he's at. And we just connected so well. We just had such good conversations, and I met him the next day for coffee before he left. And I was like, if you ever, and I was like, oh, is this a potential client? Is this my opportunity? I was like, is this my opportunity? This is my opportunity. And so, but I wasn't, forcing anything. I was just kind of thinking like, maybe not, maybe not. And I just dropped it to him. I was like, if you ever want coaching, if you want to connect to more information, just let me know. And the second day was also really good. And then I wasn't able to manifest or generate any more income during those 2 days. So I was like, okay, we don't have any money. Or I have a lot of money for food. So, and I was like, well, let me just check, how much a night is, and then all the hostels were just kind of like booked up. And Auckland is a place where you have to book in advance, and I'm just, Asian mindset. I just kind of book, just stroll in, stroll up, because it's so cheap. And so in Auckland, I was like, what? Let me just have a look, how much would I need to generate if I wanted to stay here tonight, right? And when I checked, there was like one hotel that was available for £200, and I was like, fuck that. I'm not paying £200 for one night. So I was like, I'm just gonna stay up. That's what I'll do. I'll just stay up. So I checked out my hostel, packed my suitcase, left it in the kind of like lobby. And I was like, okay, this is gonna be a really challenging day, Dana. It's gonna be really challenging. Because, I didn't have any money for that night, and I didn't really have any money for any other nights to come. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna push it. I'm just gonna keep going. I was gonna keep going. I'm not going back to my friend's house yet. Let's just see what can come about. Let's just see what can happen, right? I actually think that one of my clients was meant to pay me, that's it, yeah. One of my clients was meant to pay me on my second night in the hostel, and she didn't pay me, and this is also adds to my relationship with money. And she didn't pay me, and I was like, fuck. And I was so anxious about asking her, and I was like, oh, I don't want to seem like a pest, I don't want to ask her. And I think she was meant to pay me like £200 or something, 150. And I was like, well, I don't want to ask her. So I had put myself in the situation of like not having accommodation. So I spent the whole day just walking around Auckland in the library, just chilling. And the night came, and it was low-key a little bit embarrassing. Yeah, and so it was like nighttime, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna, there was like a commune kitchen where just people would just like chill and watch TV and just eat and stuff. It was pretty big. I was like, I'm just gonna stay here for the whole night. And I was just like, just doing work, watching TV, talking to a friend. And then at one point I just broke, and I was like, I can't do this. This is too much. What am I thinking? I've just bitten off way too much, you know? And I was like, I'm just gonna go back to my friends tomorrow. Because, and this, as I mentioned before, is confronting my fear of poverty. My fear of poverty is that when me and my family moved to the UK when I was 5, we were homeless for a bit. I don't know how long we were homeless for, but I remember vividly just my mom pushing a buggy with my sister in, and my oldest brother's disabled, and she had my brother in her hand, and she had me next to her. And I remember saying, like, I was like so tired, and I remember her saying, like, do you want to go in the buggy? And I was like, no, it's okay, because I didn't want to put that burden on her. Like, I just felt so sorry for her, and like it was a difficult situation already, let alone pushing 2 kids in a buggy, you know? So the core of my money limiting belief is like the fear of poverty, because I don't want to go back to that situation that I experienced as a child, or all the other experiences that I've experienced as a child, as like being an immigrant, living off benefits, just trying to find our way through and create a new life for us in a new country. Which, funny enough that I'm saying that, it's the same situation I'm in right now, creating a new life for myself in a new country. Can you see how these patterns repeat themselves? And they will repeat themselves until you are consciously aware of them so that you can break the pattern. But it literally takes some drilling, as you can see, for you to understand, recognize the pattern, and be like, whoa, like I'm literally having a whoa moment, because I'm like, fuck, how did I not realize that? For you to go whoa, for you to sit down and really recognize all the little aspects of the pattern, and to be like, okay, what do I need to do from here to not repeat this pattern again in the future? And it's for everything. Everything. Love, money, relationships, work, environment, location, home, everything. Anyway, so yeah, that's where my fear of poverty was created. So in the night in the hostel, I broke down. Not broke down, like cried, but I was just like, I give up. This is ridiculous. What am I doing? And I really didn't want to borrow any money. But at the time I was talking to a friend, and I was like telling him the whole situation, and he was like, oh, let me just like spot you some cash to get the bus back. You know, the bus is like £15. And I was like, you sure? I didn't ask him, he mentioned it. And he was like, yeah, just like take the bus back. And he sent me some extra cash for like a coffee. And yeah, snacks and stuff. And I was like, okay, booked the bus back the next morning, messaged my friend. This is like fucking 2 in the morning. I was like, I'm done with this. Not working out, not doing it. I'm not strong enough right now. This is not the right time. Some other time in the future. Just, I can't do it. I don't have the capacity for it right now. So I booked the bus. This story is crazy, like crazy. Okay. So I booked the bus and the morning came. Maybe it was like, and I actually met a really, really nice guy, very sweet guy from the UK in the hostel. And he was staying up all night because he was jet lagged. And we had a little conversation before I went to get a coffee before my bus. And I was like, oh, see, this is why I'm meant to be here. Everywhere I go, I'm just meeting really nice people and having like really aligned conversations. But anyway, I was like, well, it's just not the time, Dana. It's not the right time for you right now. So I went to get my coffee. I came back, I spoke to this guy for a bit. And then my bus was at 9 o'clock. And I'm tired. I'm just, you know, a bit fed up, a bit defeated. Such a good word. And the bus is at 9. At 8:30, I go to the lobby of the hostel to get my suitcase to head to the bus stop. There's this girl. She's like, does anyone work here? I'm trying to find someone. I said, no, I don't think they're behind the reception until 3 p.m. And she goes, you know, I was here last time like a year ago and it was really nice, but I really don't like it now. It's kind of like gone downhill. And I was like, oh, really? And she was like, yeah, I want to check out, because we booked another hostel. But I have another night booked if you want it. I was like, what? She was like, yeah, we booked 2 nights, but we're going to check out today because we don't like it. So if you want the other night, you can have our room. And I was like, oh my fucking God. I was like, here it is. Here is my breakthrough. Here is my manifestation. Here is what happens when you confront your fears of limitation. They show you that it's not true. It's like not real. It's not true, right? So I'm like, oh my God, what did this girl just say to me? How is she giving me the exact thing that I needed at this moment in time? Anyway, so this girl says, yeah, so she was like, do you want our room? Like, you can have our room. And I was like, well, I don't have any money to give you for the room. And she's like, yeah, I don't care. And I was like, oh. And I was like, damn, but my bus leaves in 20 minutes. But so I'm like, okay, well, I'm just still gonna get the bus, you know. It's just one night in a hostel. It's just one night. What am I gonna do on the next night, you know? It's not, you know, it's not impactful enough to maybe stay. Anyway, so, and then she says something about a Purging concert. And I was like, come again? And she said, yeah, we got tickets to a Purging concert tonight that we're gonna go to. And I was like, whoa, Purging, literally like 2 months ago when I was in Thailand. I remember posting, before I die, I wanna see it, I wanna go to a Purging concert. And so she goes, yeah, we got spare tickets for that too if you want to come. And I'm just like, what the fuck is happening? What is happening right now? And I'm looking at the time, it's 15 minutes to go before the bus. And I go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I go, well, this is never going to happen again. This is never going to happen again. being in Auckland, getting a room for the night for free, getting tickets to see Pearl Jam for free. Are you fucking kidding me? So I messaged my friend. I was like thinking, I was like, I'm gonna take this. I messaged my friend and I was like, hey, sorry, I know I meant to get the bus back, but this happened. And so blown away, so blown away, so blown away. And, you know, all right, sorry, the sun went down and the lighting just got weird, but we're back. So yeah, it was mental. I got the room for the night and I got free tickets. I got a free ticket to the Pearl Jam concert, and I was just like blown away. I was like, wow, 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 wow. And then I got into the room and I was like, oh shit, how am I going to, because I just like had no money. I think I had like £6 or something left. I was like, oh, I didn't think about public transport to get to the concert there and back. And I didn't think about like food or drinks. You know, obviously I can like go to a concert and not drink or spending money, but I don't have any money to eat today. And so I was like, shit. Anyway, a few minutes later, she goes to me, oh, by the way, just to let you know, there's free public transport included with the ticket. And I also had like matched with this guy in Bumble like 2 days before, and we were meant to meet that day that I was gonna leave, but I was gonna sack it off because like we weren't really chatting much, and I was like, well, I gotta go home and look after myself, you know. Anyway, so he messaged me that day after I like got into the room. You know, this was quite early, maybe 9 in the morning, 9 in the morning. And he was like, hey Dana, like, do you still want to go for that drink? And I was like, oh, I just got tickets to a Pearl Jam concert, so maybe later on. But I actually remembered that she said she had another ticket spare. And I was like, well, do you want to come to the concert? And he was like, fuck yeah. So he also got a ticket too. And then he was like, oh, I'll take you out to drinks beforehand and I can pick you up and drop you back home. So all those kind of pending questions that I had in terms of like, how am I going to get through this day with no money, everything was just like perfect. And it was mad because after that trip in Auckland, I actually did eventually go back to my friends like 2 days later, because I was like, I need to have a plan. But I came back to Auckland a few days after going back to my friends. Anyway, and that fear of poverty was like no longer there, just no longer there. Like, as in like, I was like, cool, I can do this. Because I confronted that fear, I purged it, I released it. Maybe it's not completely released, but to a degree it's released, where I'm no longer in a state of fear, and I'm no longer waiting for something to show up before I can take action, which I felt was definitely a block for me. Was like, I just kept waiting for something to happen, waiting to get another client, waiting to find another opportunity, waiting to meet someone, waiting. And I remember just trying to understand and register that if everything is a mirror reflection of me, if I am waiting, whatever I'm looking for is going to be delayed, because it's not going to come to me unless I initiate that action first, because initiating that action causes the ripple effect in the universe for things to start happening, right? And so it really has helped me shift into the out of like, I am stuck, I can't do something unless I have money to give me permission. I can't do something when I want to because I have to wait to get the resources. You don't actually. You can use what you have and take those steps. Like, it's merging like practicality, like what do you have and what can you do with it? Because when you use what you have, you can create more. Don't wait for more to create more. You know what I mean? Just use what you have. You don't need to be stuck. Being stuck in itself is something that you believe you are, but that's not true. That's not true. And yeah, so that was a crazy story. And it was just such a magical day, such a beautiful, magical day where I was like, wow, like I am supported. Like, see what happens when you believe. And I often think like, well, what happened if I just waited the night out and just like didn't panic and didn't try and book a bus back? Would I have still gotten the opportunity of like meeting that girl and getting the room and getting the tickets and just having such a cool day? Okay, recording this on the following day since I ran out of storage. No surprise. But yeah, so to continue on the story, I did wonder, you know, like if I just waited out that night, if I was resilient and had faith, which, you know, I guess it was completely fine. It was completely okay that I changed my mind, that I gave up, because I really honestly didn't think it was working, and I thought I was being too optimistic in the situation. I think there is a balance between being practical and being optimistic, and I think definitely having a mixture of that, and that could be to different degrees. It's fine, it's cool, right? But I think definitely it was a high level of like 90% optimism, 10% practicality, and I was really pushing it because for me, I guess there were lots of different beliefs that I wanted to dismantle, that I wanted to prove weren't right, weren't real, and that was definitely the fear of poverty, and that being linked to like homelessness, which funny enough in this situation was like you wouldn't have a room to stay for the night or however long you would be there for. Also the belief that I had to wait for resources to come to me first before I could take action, that I had to wait to have enough money before I could take action. Like, what is enough money, right? And that obviously is something that we define for ourselves. And I think for me, I just wanted to see and wanted to know that I could use whatever I had and still take steps forwards, whether they were big or small, but I wasn't stuck, right? And I think that was a big one. But yeah, I was like, oh, well, you know, if I didn't give up, if I just waited the night, would I have met that girl? Would I have still had all the opportunities that I had on that day? And I guess I would have, maybe, possibly. I just don't know, you know, because it was literally when I was getting my suitcase to leave that she so happened to be in the reception, and that this conversation started. We will never know. I will never know. But so that's my story, and if there's anything that I missed, maybe I'll bring it up in another video. Yeah, so that's on Purging Beliefs by Confronting Fears. No matter what degree it is, you've got to try, because if you choose to hold on to these beliefs, then you are choosing to believe that they are real, but that's not necessarily true, and that for yourself you have to prove. No one else is going to prove that for you but you. So you have to test yourself. You have to test these beliefs that you hold on to, test if they're true for you. Because more often than not, they're not true. There are a lot of things that we believe in this world and in this life that we were programmed to believe, that we were told to believe in by our peers, our families, school, society, TV shows, movies, music, the news, it continues, books, everything, right? And so we have these beliefs, but we don't know why we have them. We have them because they were passed on to us, not because we had it, or we had an experience, actually, that's true. Or we had a traumatic experience or a very impactful experience that formed that limiting belief. But that isn't always the case. If something happens at one time, doesn't mean that that's going to be the truth of the situation in the future. And those things we have to play with. We have to test them. We have to challenge ourselves to grow and to evolve. We have to challenge ourselves to believe, because it's really that simple, that when you have a vision, when you have a desire, when you have a dream, all it takes is being persistent in believing. And I think that that's all I've just done. I've just decided to continually believe in something, and eventually I just got there. You know, and it's like, well, it kind of makes sense because I continuously projected my focus onto something, and eventually I was going to get to that something. And so, yeah, you gotta try, you gotta play, because you never know what's possible unless you try and play. And test yourself. And if you don't test yourself, then the universe is going to test you, and people around you is going to test you, are going to test you, and life is going to test you. So, you know, yeah, you can choose how you perceive it. You can choose how you deal with it. You can choose what impact it has on you. And the more we learn how to like soften into these experiences and into these challenges, it really is a game. And the more we can just take things with ease and flow and see them more as like okay, what do I have to learn from this situation? How can I prove to myself that I'm capable? How can I show myself that I can get through this? And on the other side of it, which is fantastic, is always just something amazing, you know, to say, well done, you've been resilient, you've gone after what you wanted, you've believed in yourself, you stood in your self-worth. So here is something really beautiful, because you deserve it. And so, yeah, that's my story.